Meghan Markle sued for $2.3 million American Express files fraud lawsuit. Within hours, the claim had traveled faster than fact-checkers could respond. Thousands of viewers accepted it as truth without ever seeing a single document. Comment sections filled with certainty, reaction videos multiplied, screenshots circulated claiming to show internal billing summaries, legal warnings, and alleged financial misconduct stretching back years. And yet, beneath the noise, a far more unsettling question emerged. Not about Meghan Markle, but about the modern media ecosystem itself. Because despite the confidence with which this story was told, something critical was missing. There was no lawsuit, no court filing, no docket number, no legal notice, no confirmation from American Express, no response from any credible news organization. In a digital age obsessed with instant scandal, this absence went largely unnoticed. The allegation itself was designed to feel airtight. It spoke of corporate American Express cards allegedly used between 2022 and 2024. It claimed luxury purchases were disguised as business expenses. Designer clothing, private flights, spa treatments, all neatly packaged into a narrative of systematic fraud. The specificity was deliberate. The accusation wasn't vague. It was structured to sound like the early stages of a real legal collapse. That precision is what made it dangerous. Because real financial scandals don't begin with chaos. They begin with documents, and this story had none. To understand why millions believed it anyway, you have to understand the moment we're living in. Meghan Markle is no longer just a public figure. She is a symbol. To supporters, she represents resilience against institutional cruelty. To critics, she embodies perceived hypocrisy, entitlement, and media manipulation. Few figures in modern celebrity culture provoke such intense emotional reactions on both sides. That polarization creates fertile ground for misinformation. When audiences already expect controversy, they don't require proof. They require confirmation. The rumor did not emerge from a newsroom. It did not originate from a court leak or investigative journalist. It appeared first on fringe platforms, repeated by small content creators who relied on each other rather than primary sources. Each retelling added confidence. Each thumbnail added urgency. Each repost removed distance between speculation and assumed fact. By the time the story reached mainstream audiences, it had already passed through dozens of filters that stripped away uncertainty. What made the claim particularly effective was the use of a trusted financial institution. American Express is not just a credit card company. It is a symbol of corporate authority, elite spending, and financial scrutiny. Attaching its name to the allegation immediately elevated the rumor's perceived legitimacy. Viewers assumed that such a company would not act quietly if fraud were involved. Ironically, that assumption worked in reverse. People believed the lawsuit existed precisely because they believed American Express would be serious enough to pursue it. But in reality, that logic collapses under even minimal scrutiny. Major financial institutions do not pursue multi-million-dollar fraud claims in silence. They do not avoid court records. They do not allow reputationally explosive lawsuits involving global public figures to circulate without confirmation or correction. Their legal departments are aggressive, transparent, and methodical. And none of that happened here. Instead, what happened was something far more revealing. The story survived because no one stopped to ask the simplest question: where is the case? As the rumor grew, so did the claim surrounding it. Some versions suggested Meghan Markle ignored certified letters. Others alleged years of missed payments. Still others framed the supposed lawsuit as the final collapse of her financial standing in Hollywood. Each variation moved further from reality. Yet each was treated with greater certainty than the last. This is how false narratives evolve, not through proof, but through repetition. Meanwhile, verifiable reality told a very different story. Meghan Markle's documented legal history is public, extensive, and well covered. She has sued media organizations for privacy violations. She has engaged in litigation over unauthorized use of images. She has fought tabloid intrusion aggressively and often successfully. These cases produced filings, judgments, statements, and coverage by major global outlets. There is no precedent. None of for her being involved in personal or corporate credit fraud litigation. And yet, that fact was drowned out by volume. The most unsettling aspect of this episode is not that a false claim spread. Misinformation has always existed. It is how easily the appearance of legal authority was fabricated, and how quickly audiences accepted it without demand for evidence. In this environment, reality does not need to be disproven. It merely needs to be delayed. And while the story itself is false, the conditions that allowed it to thrive are very real and growing more dangerous by the day. Because if a non-existent $2.3 million lawsuit can be accepted as fact overnight, then the line between journalism and fiction has already begun to collapse. And this was only the beginning. What ultimately made the fabricated lawsuit so effective was not the lie itself, but the public's unfamiliarity with how real legal systems actually operate. Civil litigation in the United States, especially cases involving large financial institutions and public figures, follows rigid, traceable procedures. There are filings, timestamps, jurisdictions, case numbers, motions, responses, and paper trails that cannot be hidden or improvised. When a lawsuit is filed, it becomes part of the public record almost immediately. Journalists do not discover such cases days later. They are alerted through court monitoring systems, legal databases, and corporate disclosures. In genuine cases involving millions of dollars, silence is not an option. Financial institutions are legally required to account for material litigation risks. Shareholders demand transparency. Regulatory bodies require disclosure. Public relations teams prepare statements within hours, not weeks. Lawyers issue formal notices. None of these signals appeared. Not once in relation to the alleged American Express case. That absence is not a technicality. It is definitive. Had American Express believed it was the victim of systematic fraud by a globally recognized public figure, the response would have been immediate and unmistakable. The company would not rely on quiet phone calls or ignored letters. It would move decisively to protect its reputation, its investors, and its enforcement credibility. Fraud cases are not treated as private misunderstandings. They are treated as deterrent examples. And yet in this case, the only evidence presented was narrative. The story relied heavily on imagined internal documents, unnamed sources, and language carefully chosen to resemble legal reality without ever intersecting with it. Phrases like corporate expense misclassification and ongoing recovery action appeared repeatedly, despite the fact that no such terminology appeared in any real filing because there were no filings to begin with. The illusion of legitimacy was constructed entirely through vocabulary. This is not accidental. It reflects a broader transformation in how misinformation is engineered. In previous eras, false scandals required at least some proximity to truth. A leaked memo, a disgruntled employee, a misinterpreted event. Today, that requirement has vanished. Artificial intelligence tools can generate convincing legal prose in seconds. Content farms can replicate and slightly alter the same claim across hundreds of channels. Algorithms reward certainty over caution. The result is a media environment where plausibility replaces proof. The Meghan Markle credit card fraud hoax followed this exact pattern. One claim became many. Each repetition increased confidence. Each iteration reduced skepticism. Eventually, viewers no longer asked whether the lawsuit existed. They debated what it meant. That shift is critical. Once audiences move from verification to interpretation, the lie has already succeeded. The choice of target was also strategic. Meghan Markle occupies a rare position in modern culture. She is both highly visible and deeply polarizing. For critics, she represents perceived entitlement, media manipulation, and narrative control. For supporters, she symbolizes institutional resistance and resilience. That polarization makes her uniquely vulnerable to extreme claims, because each side expects the other to believe the worst. Misinformation thrives in environments where people are emotionally invested. Neutral figures do not generate viral scandals. Divisive ones do. But the hoax also exploited another, less discussed factor: fatigue. Years of constant coverage have left many audiences exhausted. Trust in official statements has eroded. Corrections are dismissed as spin. Silence is interpreted as guilt. In that environment, a dramatic accusation feels more honest than a boring fact check. That is how a non-existent lawsuit felt more real than reality itself. Ironically, this episode revealed more about the current state of digital media than it did about Meghan Markle. It exposed how easily financial authority can be weaponized, how quickly audiences abandon skepticism, and how vulnerable creators are to chasing engagement at the expense of verification. For content creators, the risk is not abstract. Publishing false legal claims is not protected opinion. It is a liability. Defamation law does not require malice, only negligence. Platforms do not need court rulings to issue strikes. Monetization can disappear overnight. Entire channels have collapsed after repeating stories that everyone else was covering. And yet the incentives remain misaligned. Correction videos do not perform as well as accusation videos. Nuance does not outperform outrage. Truth rarely trends. That imbalance ensures that similar hoaxes will continue to emerge, targeting public figures across politics, entertainment, and business. What makes this particular case instructive is not that it fooled people, but that it fooled so many, so quickly, with nothing but words. There was no leaked document, no whistleblower, no filing, no confirmation. Just a narrative designed to exploit trust in institutional names and frustration with celebrity culture. When stripped of emotion, the verdict is simple. There is no American Express lawsuit. There is no $2.3 million fraud case. There is no hidden legal battle waiting to explode. The story collapses the moment it is examined with even minimal legal literacy. But the damage does not disappear with the lie. Reputations are affected. Audiences become more cynical. The line between reporting and storytelling erodes further. Each successful hoax lowers the barrier for the next one. And that is the real scandal. Because the next fabricated lawsuit may not be so easy to dismiss. It may arrive with forged documents, deepfake audio, or manipulated court screenshots. By the time it is debunked, the narrative may already be embedded. This is not about defending a celebrity. It is about defending reality. The Meghan Markle American Express fraud claim will eventually fade, replaced by the next outrage cycle. But the system that allowed it to flourish remains